Hello, class. This is a Teacher Think Aloud for the article on genetic diseases. As you listen, you're going to record 3 bullet points for each chunk of text I have shown here. For my thoughts, for your thoughts, you can record 1 or 2 bullet points. This must be clear so that I can see you are gathering the correct information from each of the paragraphs. You can adjust the speed of the video. You make it faster, slow it down to work at your own pace. Proposed treatment to fix genetic diseases raises ethical concerns. So the very first thing we always have to understand is, one, before we begin to read, we know it is going to be author based. It has nothing to do with what I think, what I feel. Questions are going to be focused on the author. What does the author want me to believe? What are the central ideas? What is the author's intention? So before I begin to read, I understand that I am studying this text. I am not being tested on whether or not I can read. I'm being assessed on my ability to think about what I am reading. So my thoughts begin immediately with the title, proposed. So proposed means it hasn't happened yet. So if something hasn't happened, I immediately will know if it's proposed treatment. It seems as if the author may be trying to convince the reader that this is a solution, because something that's proposed treatment doesn't exist. So then immediately I'm like, okay, so I'm about to read about a treatment that does not exist to fix genetic diseases. Okay, so now it says that this proposed treatment raises ethical issues. I understand that ethical is the study of what's right and what's wrong. And so it seems as if whatever scientists are proposing to treat and correct genetic diseases, and something is genetic means I was born with it, right? So that means a person was born with these problems, and whatever it is that needs to be fixed, just from the title, I understand that people have some concerns. So I want to know, why do people have concerns? What have they proposed to do? Is it unethical? Is it wrong? So, and what does the author want me to believe? I see here that Rob Stein, NPR's Morning Edition, this was written in 2013. I'm going to go ahead and do a preview. That means you read the blurb at the beginning, you take a look at the pictures, and then you're going to read all of the first paragraph, the first sentence of each additional paragraph, and all of the last paragraph. So let's take a look at the first paragraph. Well, the blurb. Genetic scientists have developed a technique that makes it possible for families to remove unwanted DNA from an embryo. The process, however, has raised ethical issues, and some scientists fear that the potential problems outweigh the potential benefits. As you read, take notes on both the ethical and scientific concerns regarding this new genetic discovery. So from that already, I see that families may want to remove unwanted DNA. So if the DNA shows that the child is going to have a certain disease and they want to remove this disease from the possibility of the child having to deal with this, they're saying remove it from the DNA. Remove this. However, it says the process. So it's not about the technique, but it's the process of them removing. So maybe it causes the embryo some problems. Maybe they have to stick a long needle inside of a baby that's inside the mother's womb, because they're saying the process is raising concerns on what's right and what's wrong. So we'll see. And then it tells us on whether or not the problems that the kid may face are higher than the benefits. And so is it worth whatever the procedure is? Will the outcome outweigh the benefits? Okay, let's take a look at the picture. Here I see a test tube. I see some extraction, DNA extraction, definitely. So this looks like what DNA extraction looks like. Any other pictures? We don't see any other pictures. So let's take a look at the first paragraph. So I'm going to read the first paragraph and then the first sentence of each additional paragraph. This is called a gist. It can help the reader quickly gather key ideas. So when you're being asked for key ideas, what's a central idea? Take a look at the first paragraph and then the first sentence of each additional paragraph. And that reveals central ideas. Okay, so the central idea will be in that area of the text. Again, I'm going to read aloud. Feel free to pause the video. Feel free to listen on 2.0. Move according to your own pace. The federal government is considering whether to allow scientists to take a controversial step, make changes in some of the genetic material in a woman's egg that will be passed down through generations. So I just want to say something on the side. When you see a colon like this, notice how the colon announces a list. It's a fancy move as a writer if you want to do it and you're about to acknowledge that you're going to make a list or provide an explanation. A colon is a good way to do that. So it says the federal government is considering whether to allow scientists to take a controversial step. Should they be allowed to make changes in the genetic material of a woman's egg that will be passed down through generations? So I see here that apparently they are concerned with just building a baby. Like, this sounds as if people want to be able to build a baby. And if they're like, oh, my child's going to have blue eyes. Nope, remove it. My child's going to have brown eyes. I don't want my kid to have brown eyes. Whoa. So here I see that, you know, where would it stop? If people are allowed to begin to make changes, where would it stop? Now notice, this is me thinking through the text. So all of these thoughts I'll be having in my head, it just goes slower because I'm saying them aloud for you. But when we're taking state assessments, we are being assessed on our ability to think and draw conclusions, not read. So what I want you to learn here is that you should be thinking through the text. It's not everybody can read, but can you think about what you are reading? Paragraph, well, we're going to look at the first sentence of each additional paragraph because we're trying to see what's the central issue here. Mark Sauer of Columbia University Medical Center, a member of one or two teams of U.S. scientists pursuing the research, calls the effort to prevent infants from getting devastating genetic diseases noble. So Mark Sauer, and then of course, if you had to say ethos, pathos, logos, what would you say? When they introduce a credible source and they say, oh, he's one or of two teams. So that means there's not a lot of these people. So it must be an honor to be on this team of scientists. What is that? Logos, pathos, ethos. And why would they mention that? So if you guessed ethos, you are correct. So that's ethics. So they're trying to help you believe this point by introducing a credible source. Okay? And so this scientist, he says, hey, I think being able to pursue this research and the effort, being able to prevent efforts from getting devastating genetic diseases, he said it is noble, meaning he thinks it's the right thing to be able to do. Let's go on to the first sentence of the next paragraph. We're still doing a preview. It's going slowly because I'm just thinking aloud. But the research also raises a variety of concerns, including worries it could open the door to creating designer babies. Who's good? I'm good. I said that in my preview. Before I even read this, I knew it, right? Because you're like, hey, I want to make a baby. Let me create a baby. I want my baby to be tall, remove the short gene, or blonde hair, blue eyes. I want my baby to have no curls. See, designer babies. So whereas he's saying, hey, I think kids who are going to have devastating genetic diseases, we should be able to fix that. But where does it stop? Paragraph 4. Specifically, we're still doing a preview. And here's, to me, this is the concern right here already. I know the whole gist of the article is about people are going to be arguing, hey, we need to be able to prevent children from getting devastating diseases. And some people are like, hey, but where did we draw the line from preventing genetic diseases to designing babies? So right now, I am convinced, and let me not get too ahead of myself, but I'm almost convinced that that's the central idea. Like, that's the central argument. Specifically, the research would create an egg with healthy mitochondrial DNA, that's mtDNA. And we're just looking at the first sentence. We're doing a preview. And so it's just telling us how it will happen. Okay, so the research would create an egg with healthy. So, okay, so just there would be no unhealthy genetic diseases present at all. Paragraph 5, first sentence. Scientists estimate that 1 in every 200 women carries defects in her, remember, mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA. So we learn here that it is a strong 1 in 200. 1 in 200, that means it is a strong chance that every baby is going to be born with some type of defect. Paragraph 6. Lori Martin, 33, of Houston, found that her son Will was born with a genetic malady known as Leigh syndrome when he was about 2 years old. So here I can see they're about to provide a specific example. And when we read, we're going to find out what Leigh syndrome is. But just based on this first sentence, I can tell they are going to try to provide an example of a kid who was born with a defect so that they can help us. They are trying to persuade us. So what is this? Ethos, pathos, logos. So what do you guess it is? Why would they introduce a case example? Ethos, pathos, logos. And remember, as a writer, you should be doing this too. You should be very intentional to use ethos, pathos, and logos in your writing. All right. Oh, and look here. When they said 1 in every 200 women carry defects in her, what is that? Ethos, pathos, logos, right? Did you guess logos? If you did, that's correct. Anytime they're introducing numbers to try to persuade you. And here, this looks like it's pathos. So you want to pay attention to that, because when you see ethos, pathos, logos show up, you don't see ethos, pathos, and logos in encyclopedias and Wikipedia and dictionaries, right? And recipe books, because it is information. It's just not trying to persuade you. But here, well, recipe books, they do show nice pictures, but I digress, trying to persuade you to make the meal. But here, you want to pay attention when those rhetorical appeals show up, because they're trying to persuade you. All right, the next paragraph, we're still previewing. The experience of being told that your son is basically going to die and you don't know when or how. So obviously, whatever we found out in this paragraph, when we go back to read it, we know it has to be something bad. So it says the kid is going to die and you want to know how. It's obviously life-changing and completely wrecks your world, Martin says. So the mom obviously found that her 2-year-old son had the disease. He's going to die. And so that's pretty compelling. That is like, oh no. So why did they listen? Because listen, they could have used a different example, right? Why did they have to? Because there are all types of birth defects. All birth defects don't end up in children dying. So why did they have to immediately go to a birth defect on a child dying? Because they're trying to get me to think. So already I see now, unless the author swings back and uses argument on the other side, right now it seems as if someone is trying to get me to be for this procedure. Martin, that's the mom, and her husband are trying to help Will live as long and happy as they can. Since I am a carrier, I've been told it's recommended I do not have any more biological. Oh, whoa. So they are laying it on thick with this example of this mom and as to why the procedure should be done. Paragraph 10, we're still doing a preview. And look at all the information we're getting from the preview. We haven't even read the article. And we're able to get the information, like a lot of information, just from that first sentence. The proposed research might help Martin and women like her. Okay, so see that? Already, I can tell the author is like, it might help. So they want me to believe that. So the author is for it, right? The subject is this genetic procedure. And right now, it seems, I haven't finished reading, but it seems as if the author is for it. All right. And the author wants to convince the reader that it's worth it, because there you just laid it on thick about this lady having a baby who is projected to die early. We have developed a technique that would allow a woman to have a child that is not affected by this disease, and yet the child would be related to her genetically. So here they have also, this is another example of what? Ethos, pathos, logos. Ethos. They've introduced another expert. And so here's how the procedure would work. And notice the colon. Okay, it's a very advanced move. I would like to see that show up in your writing. Doctors take eggs from women like Martin and pluck out all the genes. So they're explaining the process. And we're still looking at the first sentence. The DNA of the woman who wants to have the child is transferred into that healthy egg. The expert is still talking. So, and they're just telling us how it's happening. The new egg could then be fertilized in the laboratory with the father's sperm. Okay, so they're making a completely new egg. They would remove the bad DNA. That's what it says is the woman who wants to have it, the DNA of the woman who wants to have the child is transferred into the healthy egg. Whoa. And so, yeah, they're creating a whole new baby, I see. Because if they're removing the genetic diseases, then that would have been a certain kid. And so now they are creating a whole new person. And keep in mind, egg represents people. These are future future people. The new egg could then be fertilized in the laboratory with the would-be father's sperm. A team of scientists, okay, now they're introducing another expert in Oregon, has already made human embryos this way and even succeeded in breeding. Oh man, so at this point, I'm trying to see, are they going to swing to the other side to show us the other side? We're already on paragraph 15. We're going to paragraph like 30. And right now they're still talking about the positive, the benefits of this procedure. A team of scientists has already made human embryos this way and succeeded in breeding healthy baby monkeys using the techniques. We're ready to move on to the next stage and transplant the embryos into this way into a new patient. Again, expert. And it looks like the British government will allow medical researchers in that country to try a related technique. They're providing another example here in Britain, saying they're allowing it to happen to replace the faulty mitochondrial DNA in eggs from women like Martin. But this is all still very controversial. Now, it seems like this is a shift. So let's see. I like this here. I'm looking at it. Hopefully now they're going to present the other side. First of all, controversial. So that's still the first sentence. We're only doing a preview. There are issues of identity that the child may experience later in life, says Ronald Green, a bioethicist. Again, there's another expert, which, I mean, you're talking about a proposed solution for genetics. It can't be, it has to be researchers, people who are credible. So it has to be a lot of ethics going on here. All right, there are even bigger concerns which start. So they're now providing the concerns. And so I see, how have they organized it? They have seemed to have organized this based on, hey, here are all of the advantages. And then now they're moving into the disadvantages. It seems as if here are the concerns. So you know how there are text structures, advantage, disadvantage, problem, solutions. So it seems as if they provided problems, they are offering solutions, but now we're addressing concerns. There are even bigger concerns which start with whether the technique is safe for the resulting infant, and whether by trying to fix one problem, scientists may inadvertently introduce mistakes into the human genetic code. So you're trying to fix this one thing, but what if you can't see over here? That could be a problem. If mistakes are made, they won't just be mistakes in the child that is born. That's why this sort of thing has always been off limits, even banned in many countries, according to another expert. Pursuing such techniques, Darnowski said, really would cross this bright line that's been established and has been observed by scientists around the world. But yeah, if technology allows us to do it, what do you think? Shouldn't we be able to do that? Like, that's just like your grandparents telling you, oh, well, we used paper maps when we traveled around, traveled from state to state. And now you all don't have to do that. We have, and I can't say her name because she would show up. So SIRI, right? We have her to be able to, we have, AI assistants to help us travel. So they're like, hey, this is not a good idea. Well, says who? Because it wasn't, because people have never done it. But now, if science says we should be able to do it, should we move forward with it? And there's another big reason for that bright line beyond fears of introducing errors into the gene pool. And so, and this is where that concern pops up again. I see it's in the second sentence. The problem is that once we start saying we're going to allow inheritable genetic changes to make healthier children, then the next step is we're going to allow these genetic engineering experiments to make children who are more intelligent, or more athletic, or have perfect pitch. Look at that. Y'all, I am amazing. Paragraph 25, I already said it right here when I was thinking through the text. I was like, hey, I see the problem with, they're already going to be thinking about designer babies. And here I was correct. That is the power of critical thinking. Okay. So it says here, now the scientists who want to do this say they're nowhere near being able to do anything like that. Abuses in medicine can occur, and they do. For her part, Martin hopes the research keeps going. Any woman who would love to be able to create a baby of her own, having that kind of gift it's a priceless gift to us. So I hope that would be an option for our family. So again, here I see that the central idea of this text is, the benefits, being able to look at the advantages and disadvantages of fixing genetic diseases. So we see that. And then we see that the concern would be, where does the line stop? Where does the buck stop? So we see that. Some inferences that we can make. We can conclude here that it could, because where it says here, any woman would be able to create a baby of her own, having that kind of gift would be. So I can infer that the author supports this, because why would he end with a quote from Martin? What other inferences can you make? I'd like to see in the my thoughts column where you write your own thoughts. What are some inferences that you can draw? So here's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to kind of pause the screen so that you can, pause the video and read it, or you can read your physical copy of the text. And then I would like for you to go back through after you've read it and share your thoughts, because you need to read everything. Remember, I only did a preview of the text to share my thoughts. And so now I'd like to give you an opportunity to pause the video and go back to read it. So let me pause. First page. All right. Pause the second page. And pause the third page. Again, make sure this is complete. 3 of my thoughts, bulleted points from the preview, and then recording your own thoughts.